I was impressed with that move you pulled. Bang.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's me, it's G, it's a double MD, the undefeated, undisputed YouTube champion. That's right, it's the Maverick, Mark Daniels, here with yet another wrestling tier list. We're on the road to Wrestlemania, which is going to be happening this weekend. So every day leading up to it, since the last couple days, we've been doing a wrestling-related tier list. Yesterday, we did an AEW Tag Team Division tier list, which was pretty cool. Today, we're going to be focusing on, since it's Thursday, why not, right? We'll flash in the past a little bit. We're going to be going back to TNA Wrestling / Impact Wrestling, and we're going to be ranking all the world champions, starting with Kurt Angle and ending with the current Impact champion, Moose. So we're going to rank them from God tier, which is, of course, the top of the top, the cream of the crop, the best of the best, better than all the rest, down to amazing, great, good, not so good, and, of course, jobber. We're bringing back the jobber tier here. Originally and normally, when I do a tier list, we have the garbage tier, or if we're doing Pokemon, Garboder, kind of a play on words there a little bit, tier. But I felt like calling real human beings garbage was a bit much. Although in some cases, especially in the wrestling world, it might be deserved. But this is obviously reserved for my least favorite, or people who I don't think quite lived up to a world champion expectation. There'll probably be a few of those on this list for sure. Now, I will be completely honest with you guys. I don't watch Impact every week. I used to be a big fan of TNA back in the day. It was some weeks my favorite show of the week, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through these wrestlers here. But I kind of fell off a little bit just because there's so much wrestling to watch. I try to keep my eyes on everything. I watch, obviously, WWE, AEW. I keep my eyes on Impact. Sometimes I'll order a pay-per-view every now and then. Like I ordered the pay-per-view when it was Rich Swann versus Kenny Omega. I ordered it when it was Kenny Omega versus Christian. Or not versus Christian. He won the title on AEW. Doesn't matter. I ordered the one. It was Josh Alexander. That's who it was. Josh Alexander and Christian. I did order that pay-per-view. I did not order the latest couple pay-per-views just mostly because I forget, because I don't watch the show every week. But I do keep my eye on the product. I also watch, New Japan Pro Wrestling. I watch Stardom, Ice Ribbon. I watch several different wrestling promotions. Ring of Honor, well, kind of, not anymore, but it's about to be again with Tony Khan. Doesn't matter, right? So I watch everything, but I don't watch everything all the time just because there's not enough time. So some of these reigns I may not be fair to just because I didn't see the entire reign flesh out, but I'm going to try to be as subjective on that as I could possibly be. I'll be honest about it. It'll be more so how I feel about the personal wrestler and as a champion than maybe their entire title reign itself, if that makes sense. Anyways, one last thing I'd like to mention every tier list video. One thing that drives me crazy about tier lists is when people put like half their list in the very top tier. Whether it's the Z tier, the Z++ tier, it doesn't matter. It drives me crazy. We have like maybe 30 wrestlers here. You'll see less than 10 in the top. Maybe I'm going to try to keep it to about 5. About 5 in the God tier, right? Not to take away from anybody, but this is reserved for the greatest of the greats. We'll go about 5. Maybe we'll go like 8. We'll see. We'll see where we're going. Nothing is permanent. We'll move things around a little bit. 8 is the maximum we want to go because it is like 30 wrestlers or so. But maybe try to go down to 5. We'll see how things go. So let's get started. So first we have Kurt Angle. I remember Kurt Angle coming to TNA. It was such a big deal, right? Kurt Angle was a massive name, obviously, in WWF and WWE. Then, obviously, he got put in ECW and obviously didn't like that. Had some issues with Vince behind the scenes. I'm not going to go into full details there. You can always do a Google. But he ended up coming to TNA, and I remember his debut, that headbutt to Samoa Joe. Very, very cool. I love Kurt Angle. And Kurt Angle... Man, I have to put him in the God tier, don't I? He's the first ever TNA champion at the time. It was still the NWA championship. So, like, R-Truth or Ron the Truth Killings isn't on this list. Or Ken Shamrock, when he was champion, isn't on this list. But Kurt Angle, the first ever TNA champion. He's had, I want to say he had quite a few different reigns with the title at different points in his TNA career. He was a major part of TNA's success in the early days. I guess he's more like in the middle of the TNA day. Well, fuck, if you compare it to now, Well, it's hard to explain. I guess he would still be technically early days because now Impact's been around for like, what, 15 years? It's been a long time now. It's hard to believe it's been around so long. Anywho, Kurt Angle's a big integral part of that, so we're going to keep him up there in the God tier. Had some great matches as well. Kurt Angle, great match with anybody at any point of his career, but especially here in Impact. He had some banger matches with some of these wrestlers. So Sting, it's Sting! Another big name for TNA, obviously, right? WCW guy. Never went to WWE at this point, and there's always rumors about Sting coming into WWF at some point, leaving TNA. They offered him more money, so he stays in TNA. I mean, eventually he made the jump to WWE for like a cup of coffee, but he was never like it almost felt like he'll never go to WWE. It was never going to happen. Everybody wanted to see Sting versus The Undertaker. But Sting played a big part in TNA as well. He was very good about putting some guys over. I remember him versus Nick Aldis. Was it Magnus at the time in TNA? I believe so. Putting Magnus over big time. May have been Sting's like last match in TNA, maybe. I'd have to obviously look that up because I don't remember off the top of my head. But Sting was a big part of TNA, especially in this time period. And he had some great matches. I have to put him in the God tier as well. I would probably put Kurt Angle above Sting personally, just from like a match quality perspective. But man, was Sting great in TNA. Samoa Joe. So Samoa Joe is obviously a guy who is maybe considered a TNA original, though he had a pretty good run in Ring of Honor as well beforehand. Samoa Joe's a guy that I've always been a big fan of. He's got a unique look. He's not, jacked to the gills. He's got a little bit of flub on him. And he has such an interesting style. A lot of submission-based wrestling. He was agile for his size too, man. He had some crazy moments in TNA, like that moment where he jumped. I think was it against Sting, where he jumped over the cement stairs on the Sting. Such an iconic moment in TNA. I believe it was Sting he was going against at that time. Really messed himself up on that as well, on that bump. Obviously, he ended up in WWE. Now he's nowhere to be seen. Who knows where Samoa Joe's going to end up, if anywhere. I'm a huge Samoa Joe fan. I think in TNA especially, hell of a run. I would probably, for me personally, put him above Sting. Would I put him above Angle, though? That's tough, man. Man, and those two had some banger matches against each other as well. Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe. I'm going to put him above Kurt, only because, and this is why, because I associate Angle, and I'm sure most people do who watch wrestling growing up, Kurt Angle with WWE, WWF, more so than like Samoa Joe, who I see 100% as a TNA guy. He was in Ring of Honor. He was in WWE. He was a guy that really put TNA on the map. I want to put Samoa Joe above Angle for me personally. And honestly, I maybe find more matches in TNA that I enjoyed more with Samoa Joe than I did Kurt Angle. But I'm sure it's pretty damn close because they're both phenomenal. Sting as well in his own right. Next we have Mick Foley. So Mick Foley's TNA title run, man, it didn't last very long, did it? I mean, it's so tough to remember these things because, again, like, I'm not great with dates or like how long things lasted, but I want to say that Mick Foley's TNA title run lasted for like a month, right? I'm gonna look up Mick Foley on Wikipedia real quick on my phone. Give me like 2 seconds. I should also mention I have a dog on my lap currently as well. He was feeling a little lonely today, so I'm kind of taking care of him right now. So I'm one-handed right now because he's laying on my left arm. Pro wrestling career. Because I don't want to put. I love Mick Foley, by the way. I should mention I'm a huge Mick Foley fan. I love everything he's done in his career. He's got such a massive career. But as far as TNA goes, it was a very short run. And as far as his actual title, like I want to say his title reign is definitely one of the worst, right? But I just wanted to see how long it actually lasted. I'm almost there. It doesn't say how long he's had it, huh? I probably have to go to the World Championship history. It's actually probably better. The shortest reign. Oh yeah, I already knew that, but we'll get to that in a minute. Title reign. Son of a biscuit. This is actually becoming more complicated now. Here we go. This is what I wanted. Perfect. Okay. Mick Foley held the title. Okay, so for 2 months. He held the title for 2 months. Not a terrible lengthy reign, but I don't remember much about the reign itself. I remember being kind of disappointed. I mean, he was older. His body was obviously not in great shape at the time. He was definitely far from what he was in WWE. Out of respect to Foley, I have a hard time putting him in the jobber category. But I feel like his title reign definitely merits it. I want to put him in not so good, just because I love Foley. So it would pain me to do this, to put him in the jobber. I want to put Foley in not so good. Unfortunately, he won't be alone, but it's a damn shame because I love Mick Foley. Next, we have the phenomenal AJ Styles. To me, if you were to tell me to define TNA by like one wrestler, it's AJ Styles. Again, another guy who actually was in WCW at the tail end of WCW. He was also in Ring of Honor as well, and obviously TNA, those where he really grew as a wrestler and became what he is today. And then of course he left TNA, went to Ring of Honor and New Japan, joined the Bullet Club, and his career just took off even further than that. This guy constantly then went to WWE, entered the Royal Rumble at number 3. It was amazing, right? AJ Styles in a WWE ring. Within a year, I believe, won the WWE title. Had a great rookie year in WWE. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely my favorite TNA guy for sure. I think most people probably agree. Though Samoa Joe's probably up there for a lot of people as well. Just a phenomenal, pun intended, talent. Great matches, great moments in TNA. Being part of like Christian's Coalition, alongside Tomko as tag team champion. I mean, you can go on and on. I'm a huge AJ Styles fan, and well deserved at the top of the god tier. Next is Rob Van Dam, a guy I'm also big on. I love Rob Van Dam. As far as TNA goes, I think he maybe had a couple title reigns in TNA. They were decent runs for sure. I want to put him in amazing. I don't think he's quite god tier in TNA. If this was like his WWE run, definitely could probably put him in the top tier because he had some banger matches. He had some great matches in TNA as well. But when you compare him to the likes of like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, he doesn't really scream to me as the TNA champion, right? He's definitely one I would remember, but he definitely wouldn't be at the top of the top, right? And again, I gotta limit myself to putting a certain amount of wrestlers in this god tier. So definitely an amazing tier. I think that's perfectly fine for where he's at. Next is Jeff Hardy, modest to the top. That was his old theme song. He had a great TNA run. Obviously had a lot of drug issues at the time. There's that infamous moment, I believe Victory Road was the name of the pay-per-view. I couldn't tell you the year though, where he was wrestling against Sting. He was intoxicated of some sort, and the match lasted about 2 minutes, and the crowd chanted bullshit. And that was really I'm not gonna blame Jeff for this at all, right? And Jeff Hardy is my favorite wrestler of all time, but it definitely hurt TNA quite a bit that moment, and it feels like, or it was around that time TNA started to go downhill, and it's not his fault. Again, I don't want to put the blame of TNA's downfall solely on Jeff Hardy at all. There's a lot of reasons why it went downhill, and unfortunately continues to do so in terms of business. But I love Jeff Hardy's heel run. I love Jeff Hardy as in general, as I mentioned, but he was never known as like a great promo guy. But man, when he came out and he was like the Antichrist of pro wrestling, he was cutting these great promos. The best promos, in my opinion, that he's cut in his entire career. There was some good stuff there, man. He was doing some great work. Outside, of course, the whole Sting ordeal. So I really enjoyed that title reign. He's had a couple TNA title reigns, I believe. But yeah, definitely an amazing. Had some great matches. Some great matches like Abyss. AJ Styles. I mean, you can go down the list, right? Huge fan of Jeff Hardy's run in TNA, and he's actually one of the reasons why I started watching TNA. I remember seeing a pay-per-view commercial for TNA, and on there was like Jeff Hardy. I saw I think Road Dogg, Jesse James, maybe Rob Van Dam was in the commercial. Maybe Macho Man strangely was in this commercial, and I was like, holy shit, that's where Jeff Hardy's at. And again, he was my favorite wrestler as a kid. I was like, I gotta watch this, and I started watching TNA at that point. And then Billy Gunn came in. Billy Gunn, another one of my favorite wrestlers. Oh man, I was in heaven. Anyways, Jeff Hardy, an amazing where he belongs. Next we have EY Eric Young. I like Eric Young a lot. He won the title. The latter part of his career, obviously had a really terrible run in WWE. Not his fault, by the way. because he's an excellent wrestler even to this day. Wait, that's Mr. Anderson, isn't it? No, there's Eric Young right there with the big beard. Obviously these pictures are kind of small, and Eric Young used to have like bleach blonde hair like Mr. Anderson does in this picture. That's Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson. I've always liked Mr. We'll talk about Eric. We started talking. We started talking about Eric Young. Let's talk about Eric Young first. So, obviously, his career in WWE didn't go very well. Not his fault. He was the leader of. What was the name of his team? With Nikki Cross, Alexander Wolf. It's not Chaos. Crap, what was the name of their team? Their little group that they had in NXT and then got called up and then literally went nowhere. Sanity. That's what it was. He was a good leader for Sanity, and they really dropped the ball with that, in my opinion. As a wrestler, he's great, even amazing, possibly in terms of in-ring wrestling. I love his promo. He has a great, unique voice because he's had throat surgery, and I really do enjoy his promos. But his title reigns, he may have had a couple. I've enjoyed both of them. I say both of them. I don't know how many reigns he's had off the top of my head, to be honest. But I remember enjoying some of his runs because he had a lot of different runs in TNA. He was like part of Team Canada. He did the Super EY thing where he was like a superhero and he was like afraid of his power and stuff. He did all kinds of fun stuff, great comedy stuff, great serious stuff. I'm gonna put him in great. I don't think he's quite on the level of a Rob Van Dam and Jeff Hardy for me, even in TNA. But when you think of TNA originals, he's definitely up there as one of the top guys. And I'm a huge fan of Eric Young. Love his work. And even to this day, every now and then I'll see a match of his. He's teaming up with several other guys, kind of like a Sanity type group. I don't remember what they're called. I think they're called not Violence Incorporated, Violent by Design. Is that what it's called? And then he's doing some fun stuff there. Like I said, I don't follow TNA as much as I used to anymore. So forgive me if I'm mistaking some of those names. But yeah, I enjoyed EY's work for sure. Now we'll talk about Mr. Anderson. I liked Mr. Anderson. I liked him as Mr. Kennedy in WWE. Really thought he was going to be a big breakout star. Obviously, kind of got in his own way a little bit. I think as a wrestler, he's pretty good. If not decent promos, really shines. Has a great voice. Introduces himself like not really a sportscaster, but someone that would introduce like a sporting team, right? Like at a sports game. I don't know what you would call them, a sports announcer maybe. Definitely pretty unique. You could tell he was influenced by like a Stone Cold Steve Austin. But man, he's awesome. I think his title reigns, I don't remember much about them off the top of my head. Maybe they weren't very long. I don't exactly remember, but I remember enjoying his stuff in TNA quite a bit. I'm going to put him in good. Right down the middle. I enjoyed his run. I enjoy his work. And I believe he's an NWA now, if I'm not mistaken. That's another wrestling company that I watch every now and then. Not as much as I did when it first came back with Billy Corgan, but I do keep an eye on it as well. But anyways, I enjoy his work. He's good. I'm going to put him in the good. James Storm, sorry about your damn luck. I enjoy James Storm even to this day. He's a great wrestler. Another guy I believe is an NWA. I always had that small run in NXT. Obviously didn't really follow through because he had a better deal with Impact, a better offer, I guess. And he ended up taking the money instead of sticking with NXT. And maybe that was a good thing. You look at all these NXT call-ups and what happened to them, the majority of them going nowhere. Who knows what would have happened with James Storm. I assume they probably would have paired him and Bobby back up as a tag team. They wouldn't have been known as Bear Money in WWE, I don't think. But what would they call them? What's a PG name for them? How about Juice Money or Milk Money? Yeah, Milk Money. That's what. Instead of drinking beer, they'd be drinking little things of milk. Milk Money. But he probably made the right decision not to stick it with WWE. But you never know. He could have been a WWE champion by now. Who knows what would have happened with him? He's a great wrestler, great promo. I'm gonna stick him in amazing. Another guy you think of TNA originals, he's definitely up there. Part of two great tag teams. He was with Bobby Roode, as I mentioned, his Beer Money. He was America's Most Wanted with Chris Harris. So tag team wise, great. But even as a solo star, I remember winning the title. I think it was against Angle, like on a random episode of Impact or TNA at the time. He won the title, and then he gave, I think it was Bobby Roode a title shot, and then he got a beer bottle broken over his head in the match, and that's how Robert Roode turned heel and on him, and then did his title run, which was fantastic, and we'll talk about him in a second. But it was good stuff. I like James Storm a lot. I'm going to put him in amazing, maybe below RVD. But I've seen obviously way more RVD than I have James Storm in my lifetime, because RVD was in WWF in 2000, early 2000s, late 90s, when they did the invasion angle. I couldn't tell you the time period off the top of my head. I want to say it's like 2000, 2001, but I could be wrong. Whereas James Storm, I started watching him in TNA. So a little bit more biased maybe towards RVD and Jeff Hardy personally. Maybe James Storm with his title reign deserves to be over RVD. You know what? I will. I'm going to put him below Jeff for me personally. But as far as like TNA title reign, I'll put him above RVD. I think that's fair. Bobby Roode, or Robert Roode, whatever you want to call him. Big Bob, as he's known now in WWE. Tag team partners with Dolph Ziggler as part of the Dirty Dogs. But before all that, he has some great runs in TNA. You know, being also a part of Team Canada along with Eric Young. He did a solo thing for a while. Did he have a group called? For some reason, the name Money Incorporated comes to my mind, and I can't tell you what that is off the top of my head. Did he have a stable or something called Money Incorporated? Am I crazy? I don't remember. But I remember like his whole gimmick was like he was becoming like a big kind of like a rich dude after he broke away from Team Canada, and then eventually forming a tag team with James Storm, being Beer Money. Had one of the best tag teams of all time in my opinion. And then as a solo guy, just great promo, fantastic wrestler. I enjoy his work to this day. He might be a little bit older, but man, he can still go in that ring. If they give him the chance, he could. I'm telling you, he could still be a world champion in WWE, and he would be able to carry a brand. He's great. I enjoy watching him do tag matches with Ziggler. I enjoy watching him do solo matches when we get the odd chance, like on NXT. I think he had a match against Braun Breaker recently, which was pretty good. Anytime he gets a match on like Raw or SmackDown, just good stuff. Love Big Bob. We're gonna put him at the top, by the way, because I think as a TNA champion, especially when you think of TNA originals, he's definitely at the top for me. I'm gonna put him at the bottom of the top when you look at the rest of this list in comparison, just because I think maybe, you know what, I'm gonna put him above, just because he's a TNA original. But I would probably say as a whole, Sting may have done more for the company, but being a TNA original guy, I want to say maybe I enjoyed his stuff maybe a little bit more than I did Sting and Angle overall. Maybe not necessarily as champion, but him as champion was great stuff, man. I'm gonna put him right up here, right below Samoa Joe. I'm gonna put him above Kurt Angle, and you may disagree with me, and that's fine. Next we have Austin Aries, and I do like Austin Aries as a wrestler. I'm not gonna get into his personal stuff, his Twitter, or anything like that. I'll leave that, and I'm not gonna, it is what it is. You have your opinion on him. I don't blame you. I get it, right? Maybe he's a little bit of an asshole outside of wrestling, but we're talking about in-ring work here. And I guess that's not fair, because when we did the world title list, there was a certain wrestler I didn't even want to talk about because of what he did in his life. But that's a bit different, right? Obviously, that's very extreme compared to what Austin Aries does or says. Not a very likable person outside the ring, but in the ring, he was a good wrestler. He had a solid title reign. Started the Option C with the X Division title, cashed in the X Division title for a title opportunity. I'm gonna put him in great. And again, this is just wrestling. This isn't about his outside of wrestling stuff. That goes for all the wrestlers here. For the most part, there's one in particular we'll talk a little bit more about. Although it involves wrestling, not outside stuff, really. Maybe a little bit controversial is Austin Aries. He had obviously a small run in WWE. Wrestled for the almost an X Division title, the Cruiserweight title against Neville, known now as the Bastard Pack, in AEW. They did the WrestleMania pre-show. Pretty much left pretty much after that. But as a wrestler, he's really good, and I enjoyed his title reign. I enjoyed his run. Well, I enjoyed his first title run. I remember he had another run, and I just kind of remembered. I forgot about this till now. He had another run in TNA where he had a bunch of championships. And then he had that controversial finish with Johnny Mundo or John Morrison, or Johnny Impact, or whatever you want to call him. Where he lost the match against Johnny, putting him over, and Johnny won the title, and then he got up right immediately after that, no-sold the finish, right? Now I've heard him do an interview talking about it, saying that, is it a work? Are we getting the reaction that it should have given if it was a work? Who knows? He knows. John Morrison probably knows. They're the only people that probably know. It is what it is. But his first title reign was really good. That title reign was okay. I wasn't a fan of him having a billion different titles. I mean, what a gimmick, right? I win all the titles. I wish I could have that gimmick. I'm just, maybe I knock him down a notch for that other title run. Because I was really judging this based off the first title run that I could remember, and it was really good. He had some good matches. I'm gonna put him in good. I'm gonna put him in good above Mr. Anderson. Next we have Bully Ray Dudley. Do you know who I am? Obviously, Bubba Ray Dudley, one half of the Dudley Boys. Obviously, a very historic career as a tag team wrestler, but this is his chance to be a breakout wrestler. Good promo, solid wrestler. Does a great way of showing aggression in the ring. Again, maybe another guy people don't like outside the ring. Maybe not to as extreme of like an Austin Aries or maybe some of the other people on this list, but I like Bully Ray. I love the Dudley Boys as a tag team. I liked him as a solo wrestler. I was kind of disappointed that Devon never got a shot. I guess he won the Legends title at the time. I had a small run with that. But I always liked Devon a lot too, so I wanted to see more from him. But Bully was really good as TNA champ. Hold on, my dog is about to jump off, so let me. Sorry about that. My dog wanted out, so I went in and let him out of my room. So anyways, Bully Ray, I liked him as a solo guy a lot. I thought he had some great matches. Shows great aggression, great promo, good wrestler. When it comes to like brawling or extreme wrestling, he's definitely a guy that could do it very well. Maybe not your best technically sound, but not every wrestler needs to be a technical wizard to be a good wrestler, at least in my opinion. I'm going to put him in great. Maybe above EY. This is definitely a breakout run for Bully Ray or Bubba Ray, whatever you want to call him. I kind of was hoping he would get maybe a singles run in WWE when the Dudley Boys came back. Maybe not a world champion, but maybe a mid-card champion. Give him a run with the IC title or something. But apparently, from what I understand, I think Vince or someone in the back didn't really like the Bully gimmick, so it is what it is. I thought it was awesome. Next, we have Chris Sabin. Now, I like Chris Sabin as a wrestler. I love the Motor City Machine Guns. But this title reign was a little underwhelming, to say the least. Maybe one of the most underwhelming TNA title runs. It was kind of like, it was one of those moments where it was like, gosh, are they going to give everybody a run with the title? You know what I mean? And that's no disrespect to Chris Sabin, because again, I do like his work. I think he's a great wrestler. I just feel like at the time of him winning the title, it just didn't feel like the right time for him to win. Like, they didn't build it up enough, right? If they would have built a really big story around Chris Sabin and maybe really just built him up, maybe. I just didn't see it, man. And he's still wrestling to this day, so maybe he can get another run at some point and can change our minds. But for now, I'm sorry, buddy, but I have to put you down here in the jobber area. And I feel bad doing that, but again, because I like Chris Sabin, and Motor City Machine Guns are one of my favorite tag teams of all time. But I have to do it to you. I'm sorry, buddy. Next we have, I think that's Magnus. It is. I had to take a quick closer look there. Magnus, or now known as Nick Aldis. It's a bit of a tongue twister. Now known as Nick Aldis. Obviously had a great run with the NWA title. But let's talk about the TNA title. So I'm pretty sure he won this title from Sting. If I'm not mistaken, or he defended it against Sting. I can't quite remember. He may have even had a couple title reigns as TNA champion. Good wrestler, great promo, actually, I would really say. Maybe not in his TNA run, but like in NWA, he's really came out and done some great stuff from the stuff that I've seen. Especially like his promos with like Tim Storm when they were feuding for the title. Really enjoyed the stuff. He had some great stuff with Cody, with the AEW. Was it with AEW or was that just All In that he had the match with Cody? I can't quite remember that. Don't quote me on that. But he had great matches with Cody. Great NWA champ. But we're talking about the TNA title, though. I want to say as a TNA title run, it wasn't terrible, right? But I would say it's maybe on the level of like a Mr. Anderson and an Austin Aries. maybe slightly above Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Anderson. Would I put it above Aries? I would say no, because I think Aries had better quality matches at the time. Maybe, if they were both to have a match today against different people, I would say maybe Nick Aldis would have a better match than Aries. But at this time, I think Aries was just more seasoned than young Magnus here. But man, I would love to see Nick Aldis go to WWE. I think he fits WWE more than he would AEW personally. And get a solid run there, man. Because the guy's great. He could be a top heel for you. He could be a baby face for you. Hell, you could put him in a tag team with somebody, and he's going to shine. So, would love to see Nick Aldis on a bigger stage, but maybe he doesn't want to be. I don't know. I don't know the full details there, but I thought in TNA he did a good job. NWA, maybe he would be, well, when you look at the other NWA champions, probably amazing tier if this was an NWA list. And maybe, I don't want to do a list like that because I didn't watch NWA back in the day. I wasn't alive yet. So I probably won't do a list, but just judging based on this, he would definitely be in great or amazing probably if this was for the NWA title reigns. Next we have the Destroyer, Bobby Lashley. So I was a big fan of Lashley when he was in WWE and ECW. He was the ECW champion. I remember there was a pay-per-view he was wrestling Cena for the title, and I thought for sure he was going to win the WWE title, but he didn't. He didn't win it, and then shortly after that, he left. He left WWE, went away for a while. I believe he did some MMA. Was it Strikeforce or Bellator? Something along those lines. I don't follow MMA, so don't crucify me for that one. But man, when he comes to TNA, he had a really big breakout career in TNA, I thought. He had some great matches, great moments, and definitely felt like a world champion. And then when he came back to WWE, won the WWE title, and well-deserved. I mean, he's a great wrestler, great physique, moves well for a big man, and a man of his age. Keep in mind, this guy's in his mid-40s, and he's incredible. I wish I looked like him now when I get to 40. I wish I'd look half as good when I hit 40. But I think Bobby definitely belongs in the amazing tier. I would probably even put him I really enjoyed those Jeff Hardy promos when he was a heel. But I think Bobby, because he also held a bunch, he held the X Division title, and then they also had the Grand title. Was it called the Grand Slam title? The Grand title? It was that weird one, and they may have changed it at a certain point, but it was we had to wrestle 3 rounds, and they had judges or some shit. It was some sort of weird title like that, if I'm not mistaken, but I probably am. Anyways, Lashley's great. I'm going to put him at the top of amazing. He's really close to being God tier, and I might move him up once we get through this list. He's really close for me. We'll talk about some more wrestlers here in a second. Next, we have EC3. Trouble. I'm not going to keep doing the whole thing, but I was a huge fan of EC3. And again, another guy now, outside the ring, maybe people aren't so crazy about him and his company that he's starting Control Your Narrative. I'm not going to talk about that stuff. That stuff is whatever. I will say, as far as in-ring stuff, great promo, good wrestler, great wrestler. I would say he's a good wrestler for sure. More of a technical wrestler than he is a flashy wrestler. Big guy, great physique. Really should have done more in WWE. It's a damn shame. This guy's known for being a hell of a promo, and they made him a mute. I don't understand why they did that. That was incredibly stupid on their part. Obviously, the higher-ups didn't know what kind of talent this guy was. But, this is a guy that they could have built Raw around. This is a top heel level wrestler. You know what I mean? He's like a Randy Orton. He's like a Miz even. I said that Miz is higher up than Randy. Scratch that. What I meant was he could be a better, higher level than a Miz because he's got a bigger physique and he's I would say maybe a better wrestler promo wise. It depends on the situation. Both are really good on promo. I'm a big Miz fan too, I should mention. I don't want to put Miz down at all, but I'm just trying to compare him to other heels in more current generation of wrestlers that he compares to. Maybe the Miz and Randy are the ones that come to mind for me personally just because of promo ability. Doing that 20-minute opening segment that we all know and love, he could do a good job of it at least, right? I think he would have been great as a top heel somewhere. Imagine him versus, having a program with Roman Reigns or a program with John Cena at the time before John Cena completely left, or him and babyface Bobby Lashley. You know what I mean? Like, and have an MVP there or something. There could have been a lot of good stuff that he could have done there, and it's a damn shame we never got to saw it. As a world champion, I think he did a hell of a job. I enjoyed a lot of his matches. He had a couple title reigns, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Again, I said I'd put 8, no more than 8 up here. So I'm trying to think who else I'm putting up there before I make this decision. Okay. I feel comfortable putting him up here in God tier along with Lashley. Yeah, I'm going to put him right there. Let me explain. So, Bobby was already born, and I really wanted to put him up here. And I was like thinking, who else am I going to put up there? I want to wait a minute first, but at the very least, he's top of amazing, right? Same with EC3, and I think I may even enjoy EC3 a little bit more than last year just because the promo ability that I'm a promo guy. I love listening to people cut promos and talk shit. That's always been like my favorite part of wrestling. That might be weird, but I've always enjoyed something that could just like a really just great promo, get under your skin, get the crowd against them. Like I find that so fun to watch. As a wrestling fan, always has since I was a kid. I love good in-ring action too, obviously, right? But for me, like the promo was always like my favorite thing, and I say that with my favorite wrestler being Jeff Hardy. That's weird, I know, but like I always enjoyed like The Rock more than Stone Cold, right? Even though I love both, and Stone Cold's a hell of a promo too, but The Rock was just on a different level, in a different universe than anybody on the stick, and I think I like EC3 just a little bit more than Lashley in terms of promos. Match wise, maybe Lashley, because Lashley brings an intensity that's very rare, like very rarely matched. I would say Lesnar brings an intensity as well, maybe a step higher than Lashley. But Lashley brings an intensity to a match, and it feels urgent. Like this guy's about to just cave your body in. Like you're in trouble when you're in the ring with Lashley. EC3 doesn't quite have that presence, but he has that promo ability, that charisma. He plays an asshole so well. I love it. So we're gonna put him up there. So that gives us 7. I want to put one more wrestler up here. A little bit of a spoiler. One more wrestler up here. And it's not going to be Matt Hardy, though I do enjoy Matt Hardy a lot. I'm going to put him in great. Should I put him in amazing? That Broken Hardy stuff was great. Let's put him in amazing, actually. We'll put him above RVD just for the Broken Hardy stuff because that stuff was great. Kind of revolutionized things in a way because then people kind of started doing these like cinematic moments and matches, and they never really did that with Matt Hardy in WWE like everybody was wanting, which really harmed his run in WWE, his most recent run in WWE alongside Jeff. They really could have gone, especially with Bray Wyatt, when they were teaming together or feuding with each other, could have done some really cool stuff. And they just never really did it. But I'm going to put Matt Hardy up there in amazing. Good matches, great wrestler, good promo. Has so many different great runs in wrestling. I mean, as a tag team guy with Jeff, obviously. Always enjoyed his tag team that he had with MVP. He had some great singles runs as champion. And as TNA champion especially. You know, he never really got to win like a major world title. He won the ECW title, but it wasn't when ECW was ECW. It was WWE ECW. Don't really count that as a world title. But TNA Impact champ, they gave him a chance to be the champion, be the top guy. And I thought he delivered very well. So I'm going to put him at the top. Well, near the top, at amazing. Next we have Drew Galloway, or Drew McIntyre, if you know him as Drew McIntyre. Obviously, back in WWE, having a great run. Is he a 2-time WWE champion or just a 1-time WWE champion? I can't remember. I think he won it twice. He lost it to, like, was it Randy Orton? And then won it back? I don't remember. But he is awesome. Very agile for his size. Big man. Great promo when he's fired up. He's a hell of a promo. I'm going to put him also... I want to put him in great. Do I man, above Bully or below? I want to put him below because I feel like Bully Ray my run was just a little bit more memorable. His run in TNA in general was a little bit more memorable. But I thought Galloway came in and really reinvented himself. It took him a little while to get there, but he got there and he did a hell of a job. Great Impact champion, great matches, obviously. Like I said, I think he's a great promo, great wrestler. And even today, he put on some great matches. At WrestleMania, he's going against Baron Corbin. Probably a match that people aren't really looking forward to, but I am because I like Corbin and I like McIntyre. And I'm sure it's gonna be a good, probably nothing special, but it's probably gonna be a good match. Probably a nice 2.5-star affair. And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't need every match being a 5-star affair, but it'll be a good match, and I'm looking forward to it. And I enjoy his work quite a bit, so I'm gonna put him there in great. It's a good place for him to be. Next, we have Eddie Edwards. So for me, I like the American Wolves, Davey Richards, Eddie Edwards. I enjoyed their work. Again, they probably got more well-known in Ring of Honor than they did anywhere else. They had that tryout match in WWE and NXT. Were they the American Bulldogs? The American Dogs? I don't remember, but I think it was against the Ascension, wasn't it? And like one of them botched like a backdrop, like the reverse of the backdrop, like landed on their neck or something, and completely like ruined their chances of joining NXT, which is a shame because could you imagine the Wolves in NXT? Oh man, that would have been good. Anyways, big fan of the Wolves as a tag team. As a singles wrestler, I think he's okay. I know he's now known like the heart and soul of Impact, I guess, and now he's a heel. He's kind of like a pseudo Tommy Dreamer, like Tommy Dreamer passed the torch to him, which is kind of weird because he's like more known as like a technical wrestler, and now he's more like a hardcore wrestler. I don't know if maybe his body's giving him trouble, so he has a harder time of doing that style or what. I have no idea. Or he just wanted a character change, which is fine, nothing wrong with that. I always found his acting in segments to be kind of weird. I remember one episode of Impact. I couldn't tell you the exact moment, who it was about or anything, but I remember specifically him and Davey were acting angry about something. And of course Davey's pissed off. And Eddie Edwards was smiling the entire time. And not like a devious grin. It was like, I'm happy to be here. And, oh, I'm so angry. He didn't say that exactly, but he was trying to portray that he was angry, but he had this goofy smile on his face. It pissed me off. I don't know why, but it did. And for that reason alone, I'm going to put him here not so good. Because I don't think his acting's very good. Promo's not as strong, so he's a good wrestler. I would say that his run was probably a step above of Chris Sabin's, which is why he's above him in the tier list. Probably better than Foley's, because Foley's wasn't very good, I remember, and not being very good. It wasn't very long either. I don't know how long his title reign was. I think he's had multiple title reigns at this point as well. But as a wrestler, he's really good. He's had some great matches, all over the world. But as champion, I just wasn't into it. Wasn't buying it. Alberto El Patron. Wasn't he not GCW, the Global Force Championship, GFC, I guess? Was he the Global Force Champion when he won the Impact title? And didn't he have to vacate it? Did he vacate it? He's had a lot of controversy, as our friend Alberto. I'll tell you this much, and I said this during the World Title tier list that we did recently as well. Actually, there's a couple people that was on that list and on this list, funny enough. Jeff Hardy, Kurt Angle, Christian, who we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Was that Christian's first Impact title reign? Did he only have the NWA title in Impact? I'm going to look that up because I'm curious. Anyways, there's a few people on both lists, which is kind of interesting. Del Rio's not my cup of tea. I always found him to be kind of boring. He's an okay promo. He's an okay wrestler. I was never a huge fan. He always had like channel changing heat for me. I always just if I DVR'd something, I would skip through it. I would say he feels more of a world champion than say like Chris Sabin, so I'll put him ahead of him. But I enjoy Chris Sabin's work more than Alberto, and really, the only reason why he even feels like a world champion more is probably because of his run in WWE. So it's not really fair to Sabin, I would say. I don't remember his reign exactly, but I can just tell you this much: not a fan of his work. And again, I'm not going to talk about his personal stuff, but obviously he's got some controversy there as well, as do a lot of people on this list. but as a wrestler, not a fan. Not a fan. Next, we have Eli Drake. Yeah. Dummy. Yeah. Of course, now known as LA Knight in NXT. I have high hopes for LA Knight in NXT. I think he'll probably win the strap at some point. Hopefully, when he gets called up, they don't give him the EC3 treatment, although I'm afraid they're going to. This guy's a heck of a promo, great worker, can put you on some great matches. But as far as a promo goes, he's one of the best current wrestlers wrestling today, in my opinion. Just oozes charisma. Obviously influenced by The Rock. Obviously influenced by maybe some influences of Stone Cold Steve Austin as well. But who the hell wasn't when they were watching wrestling during the Attitude Era? I know I was. And as far as title reign goes, it was pretty good. I enjoyed his run. He had some good matches. I'm going to put him in good, but I'm going to put him behind Aries as far as match quality goes. And you know what? I'm going to put him ahead of Aries. Fuck it. I'm going to put him ahead of Aries. I'll say it was good. Not quite great, but I thought his run in TNA was definitely good. And I'm expecting to see some bigger stuff in WWE, hopefully. Next, we have Pentagon Jr. I don't know if he was Pentagon Jr. in Impact or if he was Pentagon Cieto Miedo or Pentagon Dark. He's had a bunch of different names. To me, he's always Pentagon Jr. I love Pentagon Jr. I think he's great. The Lucha Brothers are one of my favorite tag teams. As a singles guy, he's one of my favorite wrestlers, and today, just because he's got such a unique style, a unique look. His run was pretty good. I remember him having some great matches. I think didn't Sammy Callahan beat him or had like a really good match against him on a pay-per-view? I'm trying to remember what it was. Again, my memory is kind of iffy on certain things, but also too, this is kind of the time period where I started to kind of like watch and not watch. But I remember watching some of the Pentagon Jr. matches, and I thought they were really good in Impact because I was a huge fan of his. So I have a hard time judging this one fairly because I didn't watch his entire reign or his entire run in Impact. But I'm such a fan of his in general. I'm gonna put him in good. Alright, so next is Johnny Mundo, John Morrison, Johnny Nitro, Johnny Impact, Johnny 5-Star. What's he known as now? Johnny something. He's Johnny everything. He's not even Johnny Wrestling. That's Johnny Gargano. But of course we have John. Was he known as Johnny Impact in TNA? Or was it Johnny Mundo? Honestly, don't remember. But I'm a huge fan of John Morrison. We're just going to keep calling him John Morrison from this point forward. Big fan of John Morrison. I wanted to see him win, a big title in WWE. His comeback wasn't very great. He had left Impact for WWE, and they kind of didn't they just throw him in the Royal Rumble for him to get eliminated by Brock Lesnar in like 2.5 seconds? Like that was his re-debut. And when you see that, it's like, well, we know where he's going. Poor guy. He could have easily been in the mid-card mix. I mean, did him and Miz win the tag titles again when they got back together? I honestly can't remember. That whole pandemic era, I skipped through a lot of it. It was really rough for I'm sure for them too. It was really rough for me to get through, to be honest. A lot of weeks, but I'm a huge fan of him. I thought his run in TNA was pretty good. Probably not as memorable as some of these other guys, especially some of the TNA originals. That's probably a product of not just quality of opponents, because there's some good wrestlers in Impact even today as we go through here. But he has some good opponents. But when you look at guys like Samoa Joe and AJ Styles, they worked with guys like Kurt Angle, Sting, Jeff Hardy, like Rob Van Dam, just to name a few. Christopher Daniels, who isn't unfortunately on this list because he's never been Impact champion, but Christopher Daniels was great in TNA. There's tons. There's countless Jay Lethal, countless names that came from TNA from that era that were just phenomenal, and even today still great talents. But Johnny Morrison just kind of didn't really have like a whole slew of like great opponents. He had some good opponents, but no, not a whole lot of great opponents. And obviously, his title reign's probably most known for the Austin Aries controversy, where I mentioned earlier. Austin Aries no sold the finish. Took it was a Starship Pain that Johnny Mundo won with. Got up, no sold it, act like nothing happened, and stormed off. Totally took away from Johnny Mundo. I keep switching his name. John Morrison's moment. And I think that really negatively impacted, no pun intended, his title reign. But all things considered, I want to say it was a good title run, maybe near the tail end. But overall, I did enjoy it. I enjoyed Johnny Mundo, John Morrison, Johnny Nitro, Johnny Impact, Johnny 5-Star, etc., etc. quite a bit. I also enjoyed his work in Lucha Underground, I should have mentioned. I'm a huge fan of his work in Lucha Underground. Possibly, in my opinion, maybe his best work he's ever done in wrestling was in Lucha Underground. Next, we have the man they call Cage. A man who has a fantastic physique. Constantly, it feels like he's always injured. Probably because, the size of his body and some of the movements he does in the ring. He does some crazy stuff for a man of his size, of his bulkiness. Probably shouldn't be doing some of that stuff, but hey, I'm not. It's his life, it's his career. He does what he wants. I'm a fan of Cage. Maybe not the best promo. He's not terrible, but he's not the best. In-ring work, he does some good stuff. Like I said, he's got the look. He's got the swagger of a champion. But when I compare his title run to some of these other guys here, I have to put it near the bottom. And that's not necessarily, like I said, his fault again. You look at the opponents, and he had some good stuff like Sammy Callahan. His feud with Sammy Callahan was really good. That one comes to mind. Obviously, I think Sammy Callahan won the title off of Brian Cage. Then he went to AEW, came in with a lot of fanfare, a lot of like, oh my god, this guy's, look at him, he's going to be one of their big time players, and then they just didn't follow through with it, and then you find out, later his wife kind of, I think they're married. If they're not married, my apologies, but his wife then, goes on a tirade about how they're not using him properly, and she's right. I mean, you can say what you want. I like AEW, but they did not use Brian Cage well at all. And you can say that about a lot of guys. They push and then they just disappear. We talked about Jay Lethal earlier. My God, the guy appeared, big debut on a pay-per-view, and I think he's been on television twice since then, maybe 3 times after last night. 'Cause I think he has a match against Moxley. On Impact, not Impact, on AEW. It's actually today. I haven't watched it yet. I'm recording this on Wednesday, the day of AEW, where that match I think is happening. Maybe it's Rampage. I don't know. I know he's had some wins on Dark and Elevation, but as I mentioned, that AEW video, I don't watch those. I don't care about those. On television, nowhere to be seen. Brian Cage, same thing. They just extended his contract, but he hasn't been on TV, so I don't know what's going on there. If there's some sort of sour grapes going on there, and they decide to keep him just to prove a point, or if they plan on doing something with him in Ring of Honor. I have no idea. We'll see. He could be a guy that's in the Ring of Honor, Tony Khan's vision of Ring of Honor. He could be a top guy there. I think that'd be pretty good, but we'll see. But as far as his run in TNA, man, it wasn't bad by any means. I'm going to put him at the bottom of good. I mean, usually in good, right, and great, like that's going to be where the most of the like wrestlers, fall under, just because it's like the average. He had a good average run. I'm tempted to put him in not so good. Yeah, I'm gonna put him at top of not so good, really. I mean, I'm trying to compare him to like Mr. Anderson and John Morrison, and obviously it comes down to a matter of opinion. Maybe some people preferred his run over like a Mr. Anderson or Magnus. Not me personally, and again, I didn't watch his entire title reign from start to finish, so maybe I'm being a little unfair to Brian Cage. I'm willing to admit that. But from what I saw, I enjoyed it for the most part of what I saw, but it didn't blow me away. It wasn't super memorable. And that comes to Sammy Callahan, like another guy. Actually, Cage. I mean, we kind of talked about his controversy. Another guy that comes with some controversy. Obviously, he used that baseball bat on Eddie Edwards, busted his face open on accident. It was an accident. Accidents do happen in wrestling, but obviously a very, very big accident. Really messed Eddie Edwards up. And maybe that's the career that kind of changed his wrestling style. Maybe that's why he has to wrestle the style he wrestles now. I don't know. But I like Sammy Callahan. I'm sad that they didn't do anything with him in NXT. He was with a Solomon Crow, I want to say was his name. He was like this. He had like some sort of hacker gimmick. They never really followed through with it. He was a little small in NXT, even in NXT standards. I don't think his attire was very flattering towards him. But as far as like a psychopath type of wrestler, he plays that role very well. He's a good promo, solid wrestler. His title reign was pretty good ultimately. Was his title reign very short? Did he lost it to Tessa? He won it from Cage. Was it a short run? Because I'm like, again, I'm mixing up. Like, I remember a title match with Pentagon. I think it was a title match. They had like a street fight or a hardcore match, and it was really fun to watch. So again, I didn't watch his entire run, but I remember. I want to say he won the title belt in a cage match against Cage, but I could be wrong on that. I'm gonna put him in good because I actually really like Sammy Callahan. Like I said, he's a guy. He's a good promo. In-ring wrestling, maybe he's not some people's taste. He's more of a brawly type of guy. He's not a technical wizard. He's not necessarily a high flyer. When it comes to like the garbage, hardcore matches, street fight type of matches, he's gonna perform for you very well. Storyline wise, he does that stuff very well. I think he's good. I'm gonna put him at the bottom of good, right below John Morrison. Next is Tessa Blanchard, a woman. Let's not say she's a girl, a woman with a lot of controversy. But I'm not gonna talk about some of it, right? Because obviously some of it was really bad. I'm not gonna judge it. I'm not gonna talk about it. I'm not gonna let that factor in my mind here about where I place her. But there is some controversy that I will, because it relates to her wrestling, right? So she's the first and only woman to win the Impact World title, right? And they were building up to be this big underdog baby face, and they did a good job with the build, to Impact's credit, to the point where I've seen people in some wrestling groups that were in there was literally buying that pay-per-view just to see Tessa, win the big one. And she did. She won the title. Then she was supposed to like drop the title to somebody, and then she was in Mexico, but she wouldn't give them the title belt. She wouldn't come in and do the job. Very unprofessional. Now, granted, that's only one side of the story. I don't know her side, and of course, there's always three sides to every story. One side, the other side, and then the truth that's somewhere in the middle. Whether that somewhere in the middle is 50-50 or 70-30, you know what I mean? Just from the outside looking in, it seems very unprofessional by her. Her career hasn't been the same since then. Obviously, her other controversies kind of play a part of that as well. But even through that controversy, after she won this title, when that controversy came out, Impact stood by her. They kept her the champion. They kept pushing her even though this stuff was going on. And then she totally pulls a move where she's not going to give them the title or drop the title or whatever the case may have been. Very unprofessional. I couldn't believe it. Controversy as well, mixed with the other controversy, mixed with that. I'm sorry, I have to put her not even in the jobber, but at the very bottom. It's got nothing to do with her being a woman. I was on board with her winning the women's title because they did such a great job of building that story. And her beating Sammy Callahan because they had such a great feud made so much sense. I've said this before many a times in my life. I don't know if I've ever said it on camera, but when Chyna was hot in WWE in the Attitude Era, I really could have seen her winning the world title. I know she won the IC title, the Intercontinental title. I would have been fine with her being WWE champion. She was on fire. She was great. Tessa, at one point, was very red hot in the wrestling world. There were a lot of people that thought she was the best women's wrestler in the world. For me, I wouldn't have ranked her up that high. I thought maybe that she was a little overrated in that regard, but that's of course just a matter of opinion. But she was pretty good. She was pretty good as a wrestler. But it was really the build, and Sammy played a huge part in that. That really made that story very compelling. So winning the title itself was a win, maybe even on the level of a good or a great, right? But then when you take into consideration the wrestling controversy of not dropping the title, being very unprofessional, even while being the first women's Impact champion is a big deal, and that a company standing by you when you're going through this other controversy where people are like trying to convince Impact to fire her, and they never did. I thought that was pretty unprofessional. For that, I have to put her at the very bottom. Next, we have Rich Swann. I'm a big fan of Rich Swann and have enjoyed his work ever since I've seen him in PWG. I believe he was teaming with Ricochet quite often down in PWG. I enjoyed seeing him in like 6-man tags, just regular singles matches. And when he went to WWE into the 205 Live era of wrestling, back when he was wrestling for like the Cruiserweight title, I thought it was phenomenal. He's a little on the smaller side, which always holds people back in WWE. I mean, granted, you can never see like a Ricochet beat like a Brock Lesnar in WWE, right? And whether or not that's just because we're conditioned to think that, or if that's how it should be because it just doesn't look right, I don't know. You know, everyone would always compare someone like that to like a Rey Mysterio who made a career on that. Rich Swann maybe could have been a guy like that. I don't know, but I thought he had tons of charisma. His promo ability it's okay. It's not gonna like set the world on fire, but it's not insulting either. But wrestling ability is really good. Great high flyer. Does some very impressive stuff. Lots of charisma. I believe I already said that before. I thought his run as Impact Champion was pretty good. Um, did he win the title off of Eric Young? Am I crazy in thinking that? I know he had some sort of feud with Eric Young, which was pretty good. Again, I didn't follow Impact as closely as maybe I should during that time period, but I do remember him feuding with Eric Young. He got injured maybe because of Eric Young. He was on crutches for a little while, and then he ended up winning the world title. I like Rich Swann a lot. I'm going to put him in good with his title reign. I'm going to put him right below Sammy, though, because I think Sammy being a better promo. And again, if I saw his entire title reign, maybe I'd rank him up a little bit higher. I'm just being honest there. Just from what I saw, that's where I'm going to put him. But I do enjoy Rich Swann. Next, we have Kenny Omega. I'm kidding. I just like to mess with people. Obviously, he's a bit of a controversial guy. You have a segment of wrestling fans that think he's the greatest wrestler in this generation. Then you have another segment of wrestling fans who thinks he's the worst wrestler, the most overrated, overhyped. They don't like the finger pointing, the dancing and the prancing, and on the flying knees and the promo style of Kenny Omega. I will say this, and I've talked about Kenny Omega before when I ranked the AEW roster like a year ago or so, and maybe it was less than a year. It was like in October or something like that last year. I like Kenny Omega. I've been a fan of his again, like Rich Swann, since I've seen him in PWG. When I first saw him like do a Hadouken as a wrestling move, I was like, oh, this guy's awesome. I always enjoyed his work, and then when he joined Bullet Club, that's really when it took off for me, the cleaner, and I was like, man, this guy's really good. His style fits so well in the New Japan style. He was very over the top, very very expressive, which works really well in that New Japan style. And then of course he matched the style because he used his those heavy knees, those heavy those forearms. He was really good in that regard. And then his matches with Okada, all of them were really good. Although I enjoyed the time limit draw. That one was my favorite, even though it was like really a time limit draw. You wouldn't think, but it was just such a good match. And it was the first New Japan Pro Wrestling pay-per-view I actually had purchased. Probably shouldn't say that, but it's the one the only one I actually purchased at the time. I was like, I really want to see. I don't want to be spoiled. I don't want to see something watch the video later and be spoiled by Kenny Omega winning the title. But he didn't win. It was a time limit draw, but it was such a great match. I like Kenny Omega last. So let's talk about his Impact title run, right? So like Aries, he's another guy that had like all these different titles. He had 3 titles at one point. Of course, conveniently had 2 Impact titles at one time, so it looked even like he had more titles, even though really he was champions of 3 promotions. He had 4 title belts. And then around that same time, it was either AAA or Impact. Dave Meltzer, like maybe a month before Omega won it, declared that it was back to being declared like a world championship again or something. It was like you could just tell what was going on here, and it kind of just doesn't sit right with me. It's not fair to Omega because this doesn't affect like his actual work, but stuff like that just rubs you the wrong way, right? Where they purposely do things to make someone look better than they maybe really are, or to make something they do a bigger accomplishment. Which I guess in wrestling that's the whole point of it, right? Of getting over. But I don't know, this was just like so in your face, and maybe it's because of all the mixed wrestling fans going at each other's throats that it became more apparent. I don't know, but I was just like, man, that's not cool. I don't like that, But let's talk about him himself. I'm a fan of his in-ring work, his promo style. His promos could be hit or miss for me personally. He's had some funny promos. He's had some fun promos. Maybe he's a little too comedic as a world champion at times. Maybe people would say that. I would say that probably too. Don't get me wrong, I like comedy in wrestling, but you want someone to take it seriously. And sometimes I felt like maybe he wasn't taking it very serious. And I'll be honest, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Ever since he's joined AEW, it hasn't felt quite like the same Kenny Omega from New Japan. There's just something, there's an edge missing. I don't know what it is, but there's something missing there for me personally. I don't know what it is, but there's something missing. And I don't know if maybe it's the injuries caught up to him. I know he was working through some many different injuries, which is where he's at now. He's rehabbing those injuries. So maybe when he comes back, he's gonna be refreshed, and I'll be more excited to see him because I haven't seen him in a while. But he just hasn't felt quite like the same Kenny Omega 7-star classic with Okada. Kenny Omega that we've all known to love. And as far as the Impact title specifically, you can say what you want about the AEW title reign, which was pretty good overall. The Impact title itself, he didn't hold the title very long, and it was very strange, right? Because they were having like this Forbidden Door thing going on with Impact, and it didn't really feel like it benefited Impact that much. And people will say, "Oh, but they had the best buy rates. Kenny Omega was in there." Yeah, but it really made Impact feel like it was playing second fiddle to AEW, which it is. Don't get me wrong, it is right now. But it felt like it didn't do anything for Impact in that regard, right? Because once Omega left, everything was kind of like back to the same old. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. His Impact title reign itself wasn't all that spectacular. It wasn't terrible. I'm gonna put him in good. I don't think it's quite on the level of some of these guys here. I'm gonna put it above Rich. I'm gonna put it above. I almost said Solomon Crow. Above you, above John Morrison. I'm going to put it above Anderson. I'm going to put it above Magnus. I'm going to put it above Penta. Above Aries. No. That would be very controversial if I put him underneath Aries, huh? I'm going to put him at the top of good. I think it's pretty close. I mean, pretty across the board here in this good tier. I would say maybe there's like a cutoff maybe between... I don't know. I'd say it's pretty close across the board here in good in terms of how I feel about these guys personally. Yeah, I'm fine with this list here at good. I'm fine with... I kind of almost want to move Kenny Omega in the great territory. I'm trying to think of because this title reign actually did follow all the way through, because I bought the pay-per-view where he battled against Rich Swann. It was a good match. Great match against Rich Swann. It was obvious from the get-go that Omega was winning. So there was no surprise there, but it was a good match. He wrestled... Did he wrestle Moose and defend the title against Moose? Am I crazy for thinking that? I know I said I followed it, but man, my memory's bad sometimes. I feel like he wrestled Moose and ultimately lost the title to Christian. Oh yeah, I wanted to look up Christian's how many times he held the Impact title, because obviously this was in order and when they won their titles. I could have sworn Christian had the big silver TNA belt, but I could be wrong. I know he was NWA champion as well. But I have a hard time believing he didn't win the Impact title. Let me scroll down real fast. Excuse me. Yeah, that's his first Gauntlet for Gold, 2008 TNA World Heavyweight Championship. What's that? Did he win the title in a Gauntlet for Gold match? 2008? He was the NWA champion twice and the Impact champion once. I'm not sure what the Gauntlet for Gold is off the top of my head. Doesn't matter. We'll talk about Christian here in a minute. That kind of changes my opinion on things with Christian, actually. Because it's not including the NWA run. Okay. I'm actually going to move Kenny Omega up to great, I think. To the bottom of great. Just because... Man, but he wasn't champion that long, though, either. But he was still active on AEW as well. He was on Impact every now and again doing matches. I'm going to give it to him. We'll put him at the bottom of great because I do like Kenny Omega a lot. Do I think he's the greatest wrestler of our generation? No, I don't. I think he's up there, though. Top 10, for sure. Top 5, maybe. I'd have to think about that. In this generation, that could be a video. I could make a ranked list on that at some point. I'm not going to say who I think it would be, but I have a couple people in mind, and I'm sure you guys could already guess who that is. We'll get to that later. Alright, so let's talk about Christian. So Christian's TNA Impact title run does not include those NWA title runs. I thought Christian in TNA was great when he first showed up. It was kind of like the first time I got into like wrestling news stuff, like outside of wrestling. I had the internet, but I never really thought about looking up wrestling stuff. And for some reason, I'd heard about the potential of Christian coming to TNA, and like all these rumors were circulating it, and it was pretty exciting. And then to see him show up, and then finally get like that big main event push that he deserved, that we all wanted to see in WWE, that he just never got. And of course, he would get that world title, those 2 world title runs. Actually, we just talked about the other day. In WWE, the one more match thing after he lost the title to Randy Orton. But his actual TNA run, the match between him and Omega was fantastic, right? That he won the title, and then he got a shot for the AEW title shortly after that and lost. I thought it was a little weird because it kind of took away from Omega a little bit, losing the Impact title and then just, you know what I mean? Like, it was a little weird. I don't know what they were going for there. I think they just wanted to get rid of the Impact title in general off of Omega at that point. And it's always tricky, right? Because you have someone that you're trying to build up to be this big star. So you give him a bunch of world titles, but eventually he's got to start losing those titles, right? He's not going to lose them all at once. So it's going to slowly take away from him anyways. So I thought that was a bit odd. But Christian being Impact champion, going to TNA, or not TNA, but Impact, being kind of like the top guy for a little bit made sense. He's a big name. It works for a place like Impact. And then ended up losing the title, of course, to Joshua Alexander. We'll talk about his run here in a minute. And it's a damn shame, but it's going to build to something bigger, I would think. I want to put him in good as well. I want to put him above Rich Swan, but below Sammy Callahan. Obviously, Christian's a fantastic worker. I mean, nobody would say otherwise. I mean, he's a great wrestler. Great promo, has a lot of charisma, Captain Charisma, actually. I've always enjoyed Christian's work. Always was a fan. When he was a part of Edge and Christian, or even the Brood, staying next to Edge. Obviously, Edge has the look. He has everything. It was apparent from the get-go that Edge was going to be the star coming out of that, and he was. But Christian was still so good. He was a bit underrated at some points and underappreciated for sure. Underutilized, definitely. And WWE at certain points, but he had some good runs there in WWE. Intercontinental Championship. I think he was he European champion at one point, I believe. Multiple different tag team partners. He was tag team champions with was he tag team champions with Lance Storm as the Un-Americans? Maybe. But anyways, Christian's done a lot, and of course him and Tomko did a thing in WWE and then again in TNA. Yeah, the Christians Coalition with Tomko and AJ Styles. And that stuff was gold, for sure. But yeah, and TNA itself, though, besides having this Impact title run, has some great matches there. The early TNA days, the glory days, as I would call them. And if we were including those NWA title runs, he would be an amazing. Actually, I was actually going to put him in God tier. That's why there's only 7 up here. I was going to put 8 up here. And as much as I love Jeff Hardy, I don't think he's quite his title run was quite memorable enough to be in the God tier. Even though I enjoyed his heel run quite a bit. So I think it's going to be stuck at 7. But if we would include the NWA title reigns as well, I would have definitely put him up here. But we're not. It's just the TNA/Impact title. But yeah, Christian's amazing. He still can go today, even though he's older, obviously. He's still in phenomenal shape. Still a phenomenal wrestler. I want to see him wrestle some more if he's up to it. I'd love to see him wrestle some more. So next we have Joshua Alexander, who won the title from Christian, held the title for about 3 minutes. because Moose came in and got a title shot immediately and beat him for the title, and that's how you ended that pay-per-view. Could be a few reasons for that. Maybe they're building something for a babyface Joshua Alexander. Again, haven't really been watching Impact lately, not on a regular basis, so I couldn't tell you what the plan was. I do know that Joshua Alexander's contract was up at one point, and now he's back with Impact. I'm not sure what happened there. If he was waiting to see if AEW was going to make an offer, since they have Ethan Page over there, and maybe he would reform with him and do the whole North tag team over there. But whatever the reason may be, he's back with Impact. Maybe he'll win the title back. But he's a great wrestler, has charisma, has a unique look to him, with that headgear and everything. As a tag team with Ethan Page as the North, they were phenomenal. One of the best tag teams in Impact in a long time. I have to put him in Jobber, and it's not his fault, because again, it was a very short title reign. And again, I'm assuming possibly the contract issues, or they're building up to a different story. We'll see what happens with him. He might win the title again, and maybe he would move up. As a wrestler, he's definitely would be in the great tier as just a wrestler. If we were judging this strictly by how I feel about these wrestlers here, he would be in the great tier for sure. But as his title run wasn't very good, and possibly they'll play into a bigger story later on. That's where he sticks with for now. Below Chris Sabin, but above Tessa, because Tessa was very, very unprofessional. Next we have Moose, the current Impact champion. I like Moose a lot. I've been a fan of his for a while. First saw him in Ring of Honor. He was green then, not as good now as he was. Not good then as he is now. Good wrestler, good promo. Cuts a really good promo. Has charisma to him, has a good look. Obviously has a bit of a past, which is possibly why he never made it to like WWE. Maybe AEW wouldn't touch him either. If this is his peak career in Impact, it's been a pretty good run so far, I would say. He's a great champion. Always well dressed is our Moose. Always enjoy seeing his suit game. It's always on point. He's gonna go in good. Again, he's still the champion too, so it's always hard to grade the person that's currently the champion because you don't know where it's going to go, right? So you can only solely judge it based on what they've done so far. And as I've admitted to a few different times, I haven't seen his entire title reign, so maybe it's on more of a great level. But for now, I'm going to put it in good. I'm going to put him below Rich Swan because, again, the jury's still out. It'll probably go up, I would imagine. Do I think he'll be on the level of great? Could be. I'm going to try to keep an eye on Impact a little bit more because I do like Impact. Obviously, there's a lot of history with TNA. I think there's a chance at some point that Tony Khan could buy out Impact and TNA for the library. He just bought Ring of Honor, has the library, probably going to put on a streaming service. I could see him doing the same thing with TNA Impact, especially when you look at some of the wrestlers here on this list. Some big names that he also has under contract. Guys like Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, obviously Kenny Omega, but I mean, small part of Impact's history, really. At the end of the day, who knows? Maybe he has eyes on Aldis and wants that old Magnus footage. I mean, that's always a possibility. Christian's there. I know Tony Khan mentioned he's a huge fan of Christian. Christian's one of his favorite wrestlers. So maybe having that footage would be good for him. Sting, how can I forget? It's Sting. Sting's, tape library for his matches in TNA would be really good to have. And some of these other guys, maybe he'll sign Josh Alexander at some point. Maybe Mick Foley will get some sort of role in AEW. Maybe Cage is still there, but I don't see him being there for too long. Of course, Pentagon has had some stuff in TNA and Impact over the years. I don't think he'll ever sign Aries. Anderson, especially, he's had some controversy lately as well with his wrestling school. Can't see that happening. Morrison, I could see joining him and Taya, his wife. I can see them going to AEW at some point. Having his footage would be good. Sammy Callahan, I can see maybe going to AEW at some point. He could fit. There. Being the hardcore guy for the company could work. Bully, I don't think they'll touch. Drew, I think is WWE for life at this point. Eric Young, maybe backstage role. I don't see him being on camera too much in AEW at this point. Rob Van Dam really seems like his career is about done at this point. James Storm, Maybe a little too old for AEW at this point. Still really good. I enjoy James Storm a lot. Lashley, obviously, WWE probably for life. EC3 doing Control Your Narrative, having a little bit of fan backlash of that might keep AEW away from him, but you never know. He did do like an invasion in ROH on their final show. Could see that play out a little bit more in the Tony Khan's Ring of Honor. We'll see. Kurt Angle, he's retired. He's doing a podcast now, right? Maybe he'll do one more match at AEW. I know there's been talks of it over the last couple years. Who knows? Never know. Never say never. Bobby Roode in WWE, but who knows for how long. Samoa Joe's a free agent. Could see him in AEW. He's a bit older as well, but still probably put on some big banger matches. And then, of course, the phenomenal AJ Styles. But, guys, that's going to be it for this tier list. Tomorrow, we'll go back to some WWE stuff. I got some ideas of what we might do. Probably some more like title champion rankings like this. Maybe we'll do like the Intercontinental Champion and the U.S. Champion just to give them some love. Since they're not going to be on WrestleMania, maybe I'll give them some love here. But we'll see what's up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Maverick Daniels. Bidding you farewell, peace, and one love. Bang!